Has anyone else been bullied by someone who went on to be rich and famous? If so, did it bother you? Vin Diesel's bodyguards knocked me over pretty hard at a NASCAR race while promoting the first Fast and the Furious. I was picked up by Vin Diesel and received an apology from Vin Diesel. Being like 8 years old and not knowing who he was, I was just pee all around. My mom, however, was just so excited. Vin Diesel once walked down the street with a boner. There were no survivors. To the OP, I once met Owen Wilson in St. Andrews. He was taking part in the Dunhill golf tournament. I was with my 6'8" rugby playing friend waiting for the loo when Owen tried to push past us rather rudely. My oversized friend picked him up and put him back in line. Owen responded with "I'm Owen Wilson." And my friend responded, "And you'll wait your turn." He waited. Haha, he's a dong. Dang. I wish I hadn't read all these things about Owen Wilson. It kind of breaks the magic of Midnight in Paris for me. Joel McHale from Community actually saved my friend from being bullied in high school. He was being harassed by some football players, and Joel, who's a pretty big guy, told them to frick off. Apparently he's a really nice guy. My dad got in a fist fight with David Schwimmer in middle school. He broke my dad's nose. I'm just laughing at the thought of awkward David Schwimmer getting into a fight. I have a friend who's from Brisbane. He says his friend's dad was punched in the face by Steve Irwin. This might not have been bullying since I don't know what age they were at the time. Also, I think punching people in the face is pretty normal in Australia. It's like a handshake, really. My girlfriend's uncle bullied Rowan Atkinson all through primary and secondary school, and for some reason he is proud of it. He is a complete douchebag. My aunt grew up in Manhattan Beach, California. There was a creepy weird dude who worked at the local video rental who was obsessed with films. He ended up finding her home phone number and calling to ask her out on a date. Her and her sisters just laughed at him, so I guess they were the bullies. His name was Quentin Tarantino. I can totally see him as being a creepy weird dude. My friend's dad was jumped and robbed by Sylvester Stallone. When he went to court, Stallone was sentenced to counseling, which is where he ended up taking acting lessons. Remember that scene from Napoleon Dynamite when he drew that pencil sketch of that girl and spent like 2 hours doing the shading on her lip? Her name is Emily Kennard Tyndale, and she was a B to me in high school. So they did a decent job in casting her. John Travolta went to school with my uncle. My uncle was a bit of a misfit and didn't have many friends, but apparently, Travolta introduced him around and my uncle had him to thank. Pity about all the Scientology stuff now though. Not exactly bullying, but I live in Northern Ireland and my sister-in-law's dad once boxed Liam Neeson. Apparently Liam Neeson kicked his butt. Of course he did. He trained Batman and Obi-Wan. My mother was apparently bullied quite extensively by Jennifer Aniston and her clique in high school. She talks about it anytime she hears anything about the woman. I bet she's a big Angelina Jolie fan. A couple of my friends' parents went to school with Peter Jackson. They said he was a weird kid that didn't really talk to anyone and nobody really talked to him. Yep. It all makes sense. Reverse story. Christopher Kutcher, more commonly known as Ashton Kutcher, was the target of bullying and harassment at my middle school. He went from getting bullied by other middle schoolers to fricking Bruce Willis's ex. Quite a turnaround. Hey, my great aunt may have been your teacher. I just wish I could remember her last name now. La June something. She was a huge B if that helps. Not bullied, but my dad tutored Bo Jackson while they were both students at McAdary High School in Birmingham, Ayla. From what my dad said, Bo's grades were so bad that he almost didn't graduate. When Bo graduated, he promised my dad that one day when he'd made it big, he'd give him $1 million. It didn't happen. So every time my dad and I are watching football, or any other manner of show where Bo Jackson is involved, he always screams at the TV, "The butthole owes me $1 million." This isn't exactly bullying, but it is a pretty funny story. My ex-girlfriend's dad got beat up by Patrick Swayze when they were children. Apparently Patrick Swayze was cleaning up at his parents' dance studio, and my ex's dad walks up to the window, taps on it so Swayze will look around, and shouts "F" Swayze ran outside and apparently beat the living crap out of him. You don't frick with the star of Roadhouse and get away with it. He didn't realize that Patrick Swayze is only nice until it's time to stop being nice. My old English professor is one of the writers for the show Supernatural. He told us that in high school he was made fun of a lot for his love of anime, karate and other Asian cultural things since he is white. The main character of Supernatural, I forget the name, went to the same school and was the only one out of his group of friends to show him any friendship and humility. Now they work together. You have no idea how badly I needed to know that Dean Winchester truly is the freaking boss. I have a friend who went to junior high with Lindsay Lohan, who moved to her town after making The Parent Trap. She said Lohan acted like she was God's gift to 8th grade, and every time she comes on the TV my friend would be like, frick your Lindsay. I always thought it was hilarious that she referred to a celebrity by first name. In the end, I guess the joke was on Lindsay Lohan. Now she is God's gift to entertainment writers, and Perez Hilton. Not me personally, but a friend of mine is from the same neighborhood as Justin Bieber and says he hates the little crap because he fricked up his grandmother's flower pots. That is some unforgivable crap right there. My friend was shoved out of an elevator by Mila Kunis because he pushed every button after she declared it her elevator. I tease my elevator, shut up Meg. The guy who bullied me went on to become mayor of our town. Fortunately, everyone in town hates him. There's no chance for him to get re-elected, and both his businesses are going bankrupt. My old English teacher was best friends with Anne Hathaway until about 7th grade, until they had a fight over a bag of potato chips or something and were never friends again. I went to high school with LeBron James. He wasn't directly a douche to me, but sometimes he'd come to parties and knock over the keg for no reason then leave. Because teenage drinking is wrong. LeBron got yo back. My buddy went to school with Joe Moore of the Twins. He was all states in 3 sports and recruited by every college football program in the nation. Basically, he was hot crap. Apparently nobody told him. However, since he spent most days helping out one of the mentally disabled students at school as a non-teacher aide. Thank you, Joe Moore, for being awesome and defeating stereotypes. I also remember a reporter for ESPN basically shadowing him for a weekend during the off-season a few years ago. Joe called the guy up and offered to take him to the airport when he was done shooting. Seems like a class act. This isn't bullying, but still a douche-y move. My friend works at the Apple store in the richest mall in Atlanta and Justin Bieber came in to buy a laptop. When he brought it up to the counter, he just threw a wad of cash at her and told her to count it out herself. She threw it back at him and refused to ring him up until he acted more respectful. From reading this entire thread, it seems like Justin Bieber is just a horrible person. Ben Stiller is a complete cocksucker who regularly belittles his assistants until they cry. Oh, and he wears makeup everywhere. It was many years ago, but I used to directly deal with him all the time for work. I knew his assistants and the way he treated them, all of them, was so upsetting it made me furious. The guy really treated them like crap and literally made them cry all the time. I have nothing good to say about him from my experience. Very, very sad. I went to school with Kate Hudson, and she wasn't a bully, but she was a conceited bee. I was in her Spanish class for 2 years and she would giggle in the back with all her group of friends and be flat out rude to our teacher. She was one of those girls who, when called upon to say something in Spanish, intentionally pronounces everything in a flat American accent and then giggles afterward because it wouldn't be cool to actually put forth an ounce of effort. The thing that really annoyed me about her success is that she originally became famous for playing a smiley, freewheeling hippie type, and that is so not who she was. My dad went to high school with Lance Armstrong. Lance was a big douche back then and ended up pulling my dad over on the side of the road. They were both driving and fighting. My dad kicked him in the nuts. Suddenly, testicular cancer. On the other side of the coin, my husband went to high school with Natalie Portman and she was made fun at times for being ugly. Look who's laughing now. Pictures of ugly Natalie Portman or it didn't happen. My dad lived down the street from Nicholas Sparks for about a year when he was little. One day my dad was walking his dog and Nicholas Sparks said that his dog could kill my dad's dog. There are other stories of Nicholas Sparks' general douchebaggery, but that one is my dad's top reason that he hates The Notebook. All his books are the same. Well, this is the story of my friend's dad while he was in college. He went to Baghdad University, but basically one day while walking down the hall he bumped into another kid who was a freshman at the time. Realizing who he had bumped into, he apologized profusely, but to no avail. Uday Hussein, son of Saddam Hussein's bodyguards, promptly beat him into a coma. What a tarnish on the good Hussein name. A kid who bullied me all throughout grade school and high school went on to be in an awful and remarkably unsuccessful boy band several years ago called Wow. I think they opened for the Jonas Brothers a few times and were managed by the guy who founded 98 Degrees and a few other boy bands. Their songs were terrible, their personas and outfits were extremely tacky, and they disbanded after a couple of years. Watching the entire process unfold was extremely gratifying and I look forward to seeing him someday and mentioning that my kids are a huge fan of his art. Not me personally, but we went to elementary school and high school with Lindsay Lohan. She was kind of a B to my friend. One time threw an ice cube at him and hit him in the eyeball, but he got the last laugh. At a high school party she got too fricked up and ended up crapping her pants. Karma. Plus there is that whole jail thing. True story, when my dad was in high school, his friend played in a garage band with Prince Rogers Nelson. Prince. My dad played in the band for a day, but he quit because he said that Prince is a major fucknoodle. A dude I had a crush on flipped his personality in high school and began being a massive jerk to me. Made fun of how I looked to the point I would cry in class. He is a fairly famous Olympian in a niche sport, but I would only be half surprised if he turned into one of the superstar heartthrobs of the games this year. After high school, I grew into myself and didn't look so awkward anymore. He has since apologized and now tells me how great I look every time we see one another. Throwaway, not super famous, but famous enough to pee me off. Went to high school with most of the guys from All Time Low. Total douchebags and buttholes. At least one is borderline illiterate, but I guess having rich daddies pays off if you want to be in a little girl's dream band. My husband always said that Mel Torme was his arch nemesis, because he was a dong to him once when he was a claims adjuster at Farmers. We are not allowed to listen to his Christmas song, Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire. When he died my husband went to his gravesite in Westwood and literally danced on his grave. Have a pic of him doing it somewhere. Wasn't really bullied, but the girl from Angus, Thongs and Perfect Snogging, Georgia Groom, was in my year at school and was one of those obnoxious bitchy girls. She came back after the filming and seemed even more full of herself. I never hated or resented her, I just remained in my state of disliking her. And apparently she didn't like the people that couldn't give two fricks and crap about the fact she was a famous actress. My dad was friends with Steve Carell in high school. He said Steve was a really sweet guy. I looked through his old yearbook and Steve looks exactly the same. If I went away at college right now I'd post pictures. FFS for the 20 minutes I've spent here reading about Owen Wilson and him being an butthole. I've been confusing him for Ewan McGregor. No, don't do that. Frick Owen Wilson. I haven't liked him, but not Ewan McGregor. He's awesome. I was in the same Boy Scout troop as Tom Welling from Smallville. He didn't really bully me, but one time I was counting change and he smacked my hand up and all the change went flying, causing a ruckus. Then he got to play Clark Kent for like 10 seasons. What doesn't bother me is cheaper by the dozen. My dad almost fought Ben Affleck after he accidentally bumped into him at a bar and Affleck said, "Do you know who I am?" and my dad's friend replied, "Yay, you're the guy who hangs out with Matt Damon." Fortunately for my dad, Affleck's manager broke up the fight before it got bad. I don't know why, but your dad's friend's response made me laugh really hard. My mom was a phone company operator back in the day, when you had to dial 0 to set up an international call. Frank Sinatra called one night and harassed her and a friend pretty brutally. They got revenge by asking how to spell his name, which tweaked his huge ego. Mom is a badass. Only person to ever bully me in school now pretty much owns the town. He happens to be friends with my sister, and I told her that if I ever saw him, I'd punch him in the face in retribution, and explained why. I was serious. A few weeks later, he made it up to me, mostly as a joke, I'm sure, but it totally broke me. Actually made me cry after I realized how stupid it was to hold on to all that resentment for so many years. Huskistacraft. He became a real dong after he made it big on YouTube. I haven't talked to him in years. As nice as he appears, he is a very selfish person. Somehow, I could tell this just from watching his videos. My mom married into Matthew Perry's family. This is pre-Friends. He was on another show called Second Change or something like that. When I first met him and his family, I was 7 or 8 at the time. He basically ignored me and, at one point, told me to shut up because I wasn't a real member of the family. I only met him 3 times or so because my mom divorced out. They were all douches. I despised the popularity of Friends and never watched it until way after it went off the air. Good show. Christopher Reeve was renting out an apartment in their backyard and would often see him by the pool. Pre-frick my legs. I remember Superman was really nice. Not kidding. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.